Turn to for 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Okay, turn to 2 Corinthians. I think you understood me to say talk to your neighbor. Did you understand it that way? Yeah, huh? Yeah, I think that's how you understood me. Yeah, but I really didn't mean to say that, but that's what happened. So get to a place where you can talk to your neighbor, and then I'll lead you in a conversation. And I want you to think about Moses' ministry. In the beginning, we'll just speak for a few minutes and set the stage for what I want you to discuss. I would like you to discuss church planting, mission work, where you go somewhere and you start a church. So we have the element, first of all, up on the board. We have the man with the Bible. And then where do these people come from? Oh, you don't see anything? They're working on it. Where do the people come from when you go out to plant a church? Where could you plant a church? Give me the name of a place.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Denver? Denver. Vietnam. Okay. What? Bolivia. Cuba. Yeah. Okay. Where do the people come from? How do you get the people to come? Where do they go? What are you doing exactly? All right. So talk to your neighbor about that. Ask those questions. Where do the people come from? Okay. Any answer? Where do they come from? Let's say Cuba, Havana, Cuba, where you go there as a missionary and you start to preach and minister. Your purpose is to, what do we call it? Plant a church, right? I think we plant tomatoes, right? We plant trees, we plant a church. Why do we call it plant a church? Okay, ask your neighbor. Go ahead. All right, any answer? Anybody? Answer, Kim. Because the seed of the word, the gospel, is seed, and it's planted in the soil of the human heart in Luke 8. And then also the Lord is in his garden in Song of Solomon. And the trees the Lord's planting are the trees of righteousness. So we have a parallel between planting plants and gardens and seed and people. And planting a church means that we start up a church. Then the roots of the church are where? Where are the roots? In heaven, yeah. In Christ. The roots are in Christ. Where did the people come from? How do you find them? Okay, prayer. Where do they come from? I'm sorry. Knocking on doors, outreach, special events, any place you can find them, and they come. And what are they listening to? What kind of service do you have? What is it that they're listening to? What is happening in your church plant? How many people are there? 1 or 2? How many are on your team? 6, 4, 1. Me, like 1. Okay, so you have a team. You go there and you reach out and you invite people to come, and they are coming to a service or a fellowship. In Norway, they used to come often if you gave away food. If you had free food and you gave away food, people would come. If you had a Bible study, they wouldn't come. By the way, I want to say something about that. Look at these two words, Bible and the word study. Have you ever thought about those words and how scary they are? Almost those are two words that people don't know much of, or they don't like the whole idea. Bible and then study. Like video is a good word. What are other good words? Entertainment, food, fun, music, hoedown, dancing. How do they people? Movies. What about that? Like these are words that people like and they come to. So there is what we call an outreach, right? Outreach is when you are reaching out to people you don't know and you're inviting them to something that they really need. And you're asking them to come. And what is at the core of the event when we are church planting? What's the essential, basic point? Christ, yes, sharing the gospel, and that these people would be affected. They would be ministered to. Ministry. And what did we say in these weeks here in our class? We've been speaking about being a minister through death, the death of the cross. So we are spirit-filled, and we have a ministry. And we said that there's like three elements. We talked about your skill or your gift, your training in your gift, and then your experience. Remember? Okay. How experienced are you? As a preacher or a teacher of the Bible, how many of you are really experienced? See me after the class. It really is amazing when you're not experienced how hard it can be as you learn and as you do it. And it's really important that you would give yourself a lot of grace and really encourage yourself, and also to get the training that we need, because really we need a lot of experience in order to really learn to use our gift and function in the ministry. So these three things are important part of what you do in your church planting work or starting a Bible study in Baltimore City. By the way, even though Bible study is kind of scary for the outsider, for the insider, we kind of like it. Bible study. I want to study the Bible. I really like the Bible. I want to learn the Bible. I want the Bible to speak to me. The name of our church years ago was called The Bible Speaks, and I like that name. And we kept it in Hungary, and we have it in Finland also. And you can use that name as you please. The Bible Speaks. I really like it because the Bible does speak. Okay, now, Norm. Yeah, life experience means a lot. Yes, it does. All right, now let's go back to this point here. Here is the minister who has the word. That's what this kind of funny thing is the word. It's the Bible. And then there are team members, a few team members, let's say 3. And they have a purpose in the ministry because They are able to listen just like you are doing today here in the class. You're listening and you're responding in your heart. And there is a spirit, the Spirit of God that has anointed us in our class. Because not only is there God in the ministry, and we drew it this way as well, if you remember, but there is also this ministry of you and Christ in drinking the same Spirit. We're drinking the same Spirit. And then there is the faith of hearing and believing and responding. So there is actually a team. And then, of course, there is the love that is between us in the fellowship on the team. And this is team life. And it's a part of the work when we plant a church. And there's a lot of questions I think that we could ask regarding this, because not everybody is a teacher all the time. Sometimes my part is just to listen and participate that way. Also, another part of the ministry is the music, and then another part of the ministry comes afterwards, which is counsel. When we were in Finland in our first year, we had 2 ladies on our team. We had 10 team members. And there were 2 ladies that were like a team, and they were like very good and mature and experienced women. They were Jackie Goff and Dee Dee Stoddard. Maybe if you were here years ago, you would know who they were. I would teach the Bible in Finland, and then after the meeting, everybody gravitated to those 2 women. And I'd be sitting in the corner by myself, pouting. No, I'd be sitting there. No, I would be participating too. But they wanted to talk to the women. The women wanted to talk to the women, and they were very happy to minister. I honestly believe in the beginning of our work in Finland, the ministry had a lot to do with their ministry to people. They kept names, they made contact, they made calls, they visited them in their home, and it was very important. It was team. You cannot do it by yourself as a teacher. I'm not saying it absolutely, but I am saying that this is a teamwork. And counseling and afterward ministry, we have the rap sessions and the interaction afterward, walking people home, riding with them back home, encouraging to come back again and come and see us and be with us. The big thing that happened was that the Spirit of God encouraged people in their faith, and God added people, and they did make big and important decisions. And I think it could be done, like we mentioned, it could happen in Cuba, Puerto Rico, Denver, here in Baltimore. It's a big thing when people start to discover more than just the Bible, but a relationship with Christ. And this is 2 Corinthians chapter 3, if you see it with me there, and it runs into chapter 4. And this is the Spirit of God working in the ministry. Verse 16. Nevertheless, when it shall turn to the Lord, the veil shall be taken away. Now, I want to ask you, you're going to talk to your neighbor for a minute. Where did the people come from? Answer. They actually come as a result of your invitation, and your invitation may take many forms. You may have little pamphlets, you may have posters. We had a great story about a half a piece of paper, an 8 by 11, half a piece of paper, small type in the subway on the wall with a piece of gum. That was right there in the subway in Hungary in 1990. And one of our disciples, a woman we didn't know at all, a young girl, Esther, Kalman Esther, she came up the subway and just walked right to this little announcement, read it, came to the meeting, and this is 25 years ago. One of the first ones that came. And she's, awesome. Where do they come from? Okay. Where do people come from? How do you reach them? We would put in the Helsingin Sanomat newspaper in the religious section a little block of advertisement, small, because this is all we could afford. American pastor, healing meeting, address, time, and that was it. And that was it. People would come to see an American pastor. Usually they thought he was bald and fat. And we had one person, Pastor Uah came, and he was there, was sitting in the back of the meeting looking for the American pastor. And I got up and I spoke, and he's just kind of like looking, where is the American, he had no idea it was me. Okay. But that's how it went. People would come from the newspaper because they sometimes, as a habit, the Christians would look in the paper to see if there's any foreign visitor. And the healing meetings were a big thing. And we would take them seriously. We would pray through the week for the healing meeting and ask God to heal people. And sometimes we would see that happen. Where did the people come from? How do you get the people to come to your meeting? What is the fish hook that is used to bring people in? And when they come, what do they find? And what is it that you want them to know? And this is important because, to be honest, when we first started doing this, I asked myself the question also, why are we doing it? What is it that we're saying to the people? Do I really believe it myself? Is it really true? Is it powerful? Is it real? Is Christ real? Is the Bible really how I want people to live? And the answer to those questions are very important. And they may not come to you right away. They grow in you. And when I was in Bible college, I was like learning this, and it was growing in me, and I realized I do want people to be like me. This is Acts 26 when Paul said before Agrippa, I wish that everybody that heard me was like me, except these chains. So I want them to come and listen, and I want them to find Christ, the veil be taken away from my heart, in verse 16. And now where the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. But we all with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. All right, ask your neighbor this question. Why? Where did the people come from? Okay, just that. Work on that a little bit. Where do they come from? Where did they come from? You're awesome, because you're talking and then like Pyrio?
In Poland, it was very easy. We always just invited them and they were coming.
They just came. In Poland, they just came. In Hungary, it was amazing. They just came. In Russia, it was amazing. We would have 100 people within weeks. We would have 100 people listening. And this is interesting. Look, I show you something. Here's a graph. Your first day through, let's say, 1 year, 365 days later. Okay. In Finland, it was from day one, it was like 0 is growing. Like after 1 year, there's like 20 people. Okay. in Russia, it just took 2 weeks. You'd have a lot of people, and maybe then it would increase a lot, and then after a year, you'd have 20 people. You end up at the same place. But the Russian one was a lot more fun. You know, once they met you, they knew you, they listened to you, their curiosity was satisfied, or they realized what you were saying, they knew where you were going with it, what you're really saying, then they decide they don't need it. They're not interested in what you're saying. Others, they may think they know, or they may know, but then it may be that God draws them, and then they stay. Piero, is this somehow correct? Yes.
But it didn't grow so fast. And
Yeah, maybe 2 years.
we had over 100, like, after 4 years, 5 years, when we were there.
Was that in where? In St. Petersburg? Yeah, after 4 years. Yeah, I mean, this number, depends on the country. It's a very important question, and there's a lot that can be said about it, and we do teach about it in church planting. I think, though, my point is well taken. You can have popularity, but there may not be the depth there to keep people coming. And it's only the Spirit that can do it. I'm a little bit cautious of fast-growing churches in the sense of like immediate huge numbers right away, because why are they really there? Like what is it that is doing it? Okay, so I don't mean to. Do you want to get the last word on it or no? Yes, go ahead.
Those who were interested, we had Bible college, so that really made disciples, and it made a difference in their lives, and they really were after God.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Very good. Yeah, remember in Baku, it was amazing because in Baku, it really grew. It was one of the biggest, like maybe 700 people. And regarding Bible college, they had a Bible college for people that graduated from high school, but they saw a opportunity to have a Bible college for 14 to 17-year-old kids that came after school to Bible college. And there were graduates that graduated from this Bible college and then from this Bible college. From both of them, they had like 8 years of Bible college. These were like kids that were on fire when they were, 13 years old, 14 years old, something like this. That was awesome. And I don't know any other church in, Greater Grace that has ever seen that happen. But they did that in Baku, Azerbaijan. Okay, I want to get to a few things here. Number 2, where do they come from? Why do they come? Where do they come from? Number 2, why do they come? Okay, what is your ministry? What is your message? What is happening? Are they excited about it? Why do they come? Thirdly, why do they return? Why do they return to your church or to receive the ministry? Why do they come back? All right, so talk to your neighbor about that. We'll get these 2 words here. I'm going to ask you in a second, but 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17, we have the word liberty. Why do they come back? Why do they return? What has happened? Why did they come back? What is it that happened in their life? Well, they got saved and they found liberty. They got saved and they're free from sin. They got saved and they have a future. They got saved and they're hearing a message that's very important to them. They got saved and they're being ministered to by the veil is taken away. Now, you know the principle. Let me just, can I have your coat, James? Or your coat. Okay. The principle is, thanks so much. It's definitely big enough. Okay, so here is the Bible, and the veil is on the eye of the Jew, who, when he reads the Bible, he cannot see Jesus Christ as the Messiah. So when the veil is taken away, he sees that Christ is the Messiah. But it's a veil also on the human heart, that he might say, like Pastor Matti has this testimony, his family was like socialistic, like politically, like not like anti-American kind of. And he had an attitude about Americans, and he's a young guy sitting. He decides to come and listen. And as he listens, he has an attitude. And if you know Pastor Matti, he can have an attitude. All right, so then as he listens, he starts to listen, and then he listens. And of course, he becomes like changed. But he was already a believer, but now he's like, something happened there. The veil taken away, and there's liberty. The second thing in this is verse 18. But we all, with open face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image, from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. Why did the people come back? Because maybe they believe or they see the possibility for their future, maybe because they are changed. And they may not say it, because I didn't like the whole idea of me changing, to be honest. Like there would be people like me right now saying, oh, we're changed. And I would be like, I don't want to be changed. I didn't understand the meaning of it, because I always felt like I want to hold on to the things that do not change. I didn't want to be changing. But this change is another kind. It's a good change. It's from glory to glory. It's a spiritual change on the inside in your heart where you want God. Do you see that? Why do they come back to our Greater Grace Church plant in Havana, Cuba? Because something is going on in their life, because there is a ministry that you have like Moses had, and the veil was over his face, but when the veil is taken away, we are changed, and that people are being changed. Now, have you ever been to a church where you get the opposite meaning? There is not liberty at the church. You know what that means? I go to that meeting and everybody's like, very careful about their behavior, their appearance, their language. There is not liberty. The second thing, you may go to a church and there isn't any change. There isn't any hope. There isn't any message of Christ. But it's like frozen. There is no change there. So why would I go? And actually, this is the concept that a lot of people have about churches. Like, you really think I want to go to a church? And then do you think I want to go to a Bible study? I don't want to study anything, and definitely not the Bible. But actually, it's just the other way around. When Christ is manifest to you, you want to study the Bible, and you actually have found liberty, and you actually have found a real change inside in your heart. You are changed from glory to glory. This by the Spirit of God. Now, notice chapter 4, verse 1. Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we don't faint. It means I cannot stop doing what I'm doing. I have found it to be incredible. The greatest thing going on in the world is the ministry of Christ on the earth. Therefore, we faint not. I cannot stop it. It's so good. It's so amazing. To be with you here tonight is awesome. To be with my sister, my brother, to get in the car and go to Poland like we did in those years in the 80s and so on. And here in America, New Hampshire, and up in Massachusetts, upstate New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. We can't faint. We don't faint. Verse 2, but have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of God deceitfully. Unfortunately, this happens. But if you are learning the doctrine, it is very clear in your heart what the truth is. And this truth is a powerful tool, a ministry to people. But sometimes in verse 3, our gospel is hid, and is hid to them that are lost. There are lost people. They do not get it. They're invited. They may even come, but then they go away. They don't get it. They are not interested, and their eyes are blinded in verse 4. In whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. For we preach not ourselves, but Christ Jesus the Lord. So why do they come back? Because we preach Christ, not ourselves. We have to be careful when we are ministering to people that we have a flavor because we're Americans or we're educated this way or that way. We have a flavor and a vocabulary and a style. But we are not concentrating on the style, but we are focusing on God and His Spirit, His presence, His work, His nature, His message, because we know that is what changes people. And that this is why they come back. This is why they trust you. Here's another thing about it. This is trust factor. And the trust factor in your ministry is important. It's in 2 Corinthians 6:4. Because there are things that offend people, chapter 6, verse 4. But in all things, approving ourselves as the ministers of God. In verse 3, giving no offense in anything, that the ministry be not blamed. Let's say that you reach out, people come, they come for 1 year, and then they don't trust you anymore. How can the trust be broken? Trust broken. Ask your neighbor. James just shared a short story with me. He said in Egypt, American missionaries, promised to give a dollar if you would come into the meeting. So they would give $1 out to people, and they had 100 people come to the first meeting. and they would preach to them. Then they said, go tell your friends we will give them $1 if they come to the meeting. So they had 1,000 people come. So how many dollars is that? Okay, $1,000. And then they would preach to them, and then as the time went on, they didn't give out the dollars, but people came for the word. So they came for the word eventually at the end of the story, right? They weren't giving out dollars anymore, but they were just preaching the word, and the people were coming for the message. Wow. All right, so I'm sure some didn't come. They wanted the dollar, and then you hear about, maybe you've heard about rice Christians, right? Rice Christians. Like we give the rice to the Christians. This isn't a famine in China, and I don't know all the details, but it was connected, I think, with the Boxer Rebellion. And this gives missionaries a bad name. At the same time, if God is leading you, if you are trying to reach people, it's like there is liberty for us in reaching out to people. And ultimately, the point is that the veil would be taken away and people would be changed. And they could say, the reason I started coming here was for $1, but I ended up with something much greater. And that's the important issue here. And that is, what is our ministry, right? And how does it affect people? Okay, so trust factor. How can the trust be broken? And how important is it? Yes, Kim.
It can be broken when people see the human side to the pastor, that they have him up on a pedestal, and then they become a bit familiar and say, okay, well, I don't know if I want to follow this person or not. They don't live up to the perfection I wanted them to do.
Okay, people could project on the leader an expectation, and he could fail them. He could actually fail them because he isn't perfect. And that's important, that he would learn to live before them transparently. And I like this little phrase, I have feet of clay. I am a human being like you also. And I think that's an important thing to communicate. Yes, there are people that could put you on a pedestal, and they do it regardless. And also, you could make promises that you can't keep. And they may not trust you. But it's even more than that. They may not trust you because of the country you come from. They may not trust you because your idea of life may be different. There may be something you're very sensitive about and they aren't, and something they're very sensitive about and you aren't, because of a cultural difference, So you have to live before them, realizing that a lie breaks trust amongst people. Some kind of misrepresentation of a promise, something that was promised. I learned something in Hungary. I realized the Hungarians, when they know English, they didn't know the subjunctive mood very well in the English language. And that means that when you say may be, they didn't know. I may come by and see you. Maybe I will see you. Because they didn't know this mood, then they just heard, I am coming to see you. They only heard and they would get excited. Oh, great. But I would so I had to change it. And I would say, there's a 10% possibility. And then they would want to know, they didn't really understand that either until they, we had to explain it to them. There was a possibility. But because I would say maybe, and they heard it as a this indicative mood, this is a definite thing that's going to happen, then I disappointed people. And of course, that breaks trust, because then you're saying something and it doesn't happen. When you say something, you and I need to be good or make it real for what it is that we're saying. For example, also, you could lose the trust where you are meeting. Where is the meeting? Because you have a meeting, it doesn't mean that it is good in a good place, or that we had meetings in the communist meeting hall at the university in Budapest, and I don't think it was a big problem, but at the same time, it raised questions in my mind, like what message are we sending people? Like we are living before people that really don't know us. And there are people that can get offended by things that you have no idea that they are thinking this way, because of the culture and also our insensitivity. So trust, that's important. Okay? All right. So that's the end of this part of our class. And then the next part, we're going to speak about a sermon series and having a series of messages, and we'll walk through that with you. Okay? Take a 10-minute break and come back.